According to different sources, Carlo Ancelotti will not manage Real Madrid after the Copa del Rey final. The Copa del Rey final will be Carlo Ancelotti's final game as Real Madrid manager. There will be an interim manager appointed until Real Madrid finds a long-term manager in the summer. Jurgen Klopp has started negotiations with Real Madrid, although it's not clear at this point how advanced those conversations are. According to different sources, a few players went up to Florentino Pérez after the game against Arsenal and they told him that they no longer have confidence in Carlo Ancelotti. And let's be real, it's not very difficult to speculate who some of those players are. All we know is that they are some heavy hitters. But just listening to some of the things that Courtois said after the game, it's pretty clear that Courtois is one of them. It seems like the frustration has been bubbling up. Even the Kylian Mbappe red card against Alaves last weekend, that red card only happens because Kylian Mbappe is extremely frustrated. And you saw how frustrated Jude Bellingham has been, running himself into the ground. If any of you guys remember the first game of the season, the game against Mallorca, when Jude Bellingham was telling Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo in the tunnel, you guys have to finish the attacks. He was so frustrated at the amount of work that he was doing with no result. And that's the thing, Real Madrid lacks structure. It has the best players in the world, but it doesn't matter if you're the best players in the world. You need a system, you need structure, you need balance. And Carlo Ancelotti had a lot of time to figure out what that balance is, and he just could not solve it. A lot of tactical errors on Carlo Ancelotti's side. But now looking forward, I'm going to talk about in this video who Real Madrid is going to appoint as their manager for next season. I did extensive research on who might potentially be the right fit. Just make sure you guys like, subscribe, because I cover all the latest information around Real Madrid. I have a feeling this summer is going to be a busy one because there's reinforcements needed at Real Madrid. All right, let's get into it. So first, as I mentioned in this video, that Carlo Ancelotti is going to leave before the end of the season, according to the different reports. So the question then becomes, who is the next manager? Is it Santiago Solari, who in his previous stint, he was the interim manager? Of course, he was one of the first people at the club to really believe in Vinicius and give him an opportunity. He seems like a guy who really wanted to invest more. He really likes the kids, not in an Epstein way, but like, you know, he tries to help them from a footballing perspective. But the thing is, if you appoint Raul as the manager, you're going to have a hard time with Raul at the end of the season because Raul has a lot of political capital at Real Madrid. This is a guy that when he was getting benched, when he started to go through his decline, he would take his best friends at the club, go to Florentino Pérez and fire whatever manager was in charge. Raul had a lot of power at the club when he was the captain of the team. He's a prominent figure in Madrid, just in general. So that's why you cannot just appoint a guy like Raul as an interim manager. And if he starts to pull it off, he starts to string a few good performances together, we somehow win the league, then he makes an argument for himself to stay on for next season. And given where the club is right now, I don't think they can gamble with a guy like Raul, because Raul is currently the manager of Castilla, but this is his final season in charge of Castilla because Arbeloa will take over the club after Raul leaves. But Raul has not performed as well with Castilla as was expected. He has underperformed where Zizou did when Zizou took over at Real Madrid as the manager at the time where Benitez was fired. The thing is with Raul is that Schalke has been trying to get him as their manager for the last few seasons, but he's declined their offers. Raul has literally been sitting there waiting for this opportunity, and that's why he cannot be the interim manager. And given the small sample size of him being in charge of the Castilla, we have not seen enough from Raul to justify him taking over the first team. But a guy who's been linked with Real Madrid for the last 2 seasons is Xabi Alonso. The Xabi Alonso signing to Real Madrid is a little different than what a lot of Madridistas think it is, because Xabi Alonso is not as much of a system manager that a lot of Real Madrid fans think that he is. Xabi Alonso is known for playing a 3-5-2. Although he does play with a 3-5-2 system pretty frequently, he sometimes does play with a back 4. And sometimes he plays with a double pivot. Sometimes he plays Florian Wirtz as a left winger. Sometimes he plays Wirtz in the middle. He plays Xhaka oftentimes as a single pivot. He typically likes 3 midfielders, but the thing is with Xabi Alonso is he's an adaptable manager. He's the manager who changes the system, the shape, the pressing, everything depending on the opponent. And I think that's part of the reason why Real Madrid really like the idea of Xabi Alonso is he is malleable. He's the manager who can change the system. He's a guy who's not set on a certain way of playing football, and that suited Real Madrid very well in recent history. Obviously, you cannot question the success Real Madrid has had. But the concern with appointing a guy like Xabi Alonso as the manager is inevitably, whoever comes in, it's likely there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be moments where there's going to be a period where they try to get their system and philosophy implemented in this team. And through that process, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some frustration. And Xabi Alonso does not have that credit in the bank so that the fans give him that leeway for him to implement the way that he wants to play football. But the thing that I do like about Xabi Alonso is the fact that he played in England, he played in Germany, and he obviously played in Spain with us, and he won La Decima. He was a technical player, a high IQ player, and he seems like a high IQ coach. But the idea that he's played in Germany, he's played in England and Spain, he understands the physicality of the Premier League. He knows what it takes to win in England. So having a guy who has had that exposure to those three leagues and understood what it's like, the pace of La Liga, at the same time knowing the physicality and the demands, the physical needs of the Premier League, those are the kinds of things that really help you become a top quality manager. Xabi Alonso also had exposure to some of the best coaches in the world. This is a guy that was coached by Jose Mourinho, obviously by Carlo. He's worked with Pep Guardiola. Again, this is a guy also with Benitez. This is a guy who has worked with some of the best in the business. A lot of times the best managers in the world, they had mentors who are really the best in the business. And you can say that about Xabi Alonso because he had the quality as a player and he clearly has the quality as a manager. And I definitely see Real Madrid in his future. But a guy who's in negotiations with Real Madrid right now is Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp is currently the director at Red Bull. And according to different things that I've heard, Jurgen Klopp is kind of burnt out from that job. He wants to get back into management. When he was interviewed pretty early on, Jurgen Klopp always said that it was a dream of his to one day manage in Spain. Before he even went to England, before he was the manager at Liverpool, he said that that was always an ambition of his, was to manage in Spain as well. First of all, let's talk about where Liverpool was before Jurgen Klopp to where they are today. If you look at the budget that Jurgen Klopp had against Pep Guardiola, the amount of money that he spent in comparison to Pep, and how competitive they were with Manchester City throughout that entire time that Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp were in England, you have to say it is incredibly impressive what he has been able to achieve with Liverpool. But the thing is that gegenpressing, high pressing football where they press from the front, they win the ball high up the pitch, they create high XG quality chances. I just think to myself, when you look at Sadio Mane, Firmino, and Salah, that front three, that prime Liverpool team, when any of those players left Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool, there was a pretty significant decline in their performances. That should just tell you that Jurgen Klopp got the best out of these players. Gini Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Henderson. I mean, look at that team. That midfield three, what Jurgen Klopp was able to do with those guys. Now, imagine a midfield of Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Valverde, Jude Bellingham. I mean, think about the talent that we have in our team. We have some of the best players in the world. Yet, in my opinion, Carlo Ancelotti significantly underperformed with these kinds of players. One of the things with Jurgen Klopp that's underrated is his man management. He is a guy who knows how to put his arm around a guy's shoulder and tell him the right things and manage those egos. But he is a very intense manager. And I think you all would agree with me that we need a guy who's intense. None of this nice guy bullshit. I'm seeing Lucas Vazquez shaking people's hands after we take L's. Don't shake anybody's hand, alright? We're not here to make friends. We're here to win, alright? Enough with that soft bullshit. And one of the things I really love about the idea of Jurgen Klopp is that if Real Madrid is as dominant as I think they will be under Jurgen Klopp, we're not going to be winning games by 1-0. It's going to be situations where we're leading by 2, 3, 4 goals and we can bring in Endrick and Arda Güler and develop these guys more. They can have more instruction. They're going to know where to be on the pitch. They're going to get more minutes. I'm telling you guys, I think this is the move for Real Madrid. It's not only going to get the best out of our 11, but it's going to really maximize the capabilities of our entire squad. But the big issue for me with Jurgen Klopp is Liverpool really gave him the reins and they let him sign the players that he wanted. And we all know that Real Madrid is very stubborn when it comes to signings. The only manager who really had that kind of ability to sign the players that he wanted was Jose Mourinho. And a guy like Klopp is not going to go to a club where they tell him who he can and cannot sign. So that might be the sticking point between us getting Jurgen Klopp But either way, I would love to have either one of those guys. Another guy that many Real Madrid fans have been calling for is Zinedine Zidane to come back for the third time. Of course, we all know what Zizou being in charge looks like at Real Madrid. This is a guy who is at Real Madrid who he likes a little bit more structure. Of course, Zizou played in Italy. He was a player who played at Juventus for many years. Zizou believes in being very defensively solid. The thing is with Zizou is we had a lot of success, but we also had some of the best players in the world under Zinedine Zidane. But when you look in comparison to what Carlo Ancelotti did versus Zidane, with some of the similar type of players, for example, Vinicius, Benzema, these guys went to another level under Carlo. Under Zidane, our last game in the Champions League was against Chelsea, and he played Vinicius as a right wing back. Now compare that to what Carlo Ancelotti has done with Vinicius since he has come to Real Madrid. Of course, I've been very critical of Carlo Ancelotti. I don't think he's the man going forward. But the point I'm making with Zinedine Zidane is, yes, he's a more structured coach. The idea of Zidane coming back to Real Madrid doesn't excite me. Do I think he will command the respect of these players? Yes. Do I think he'll provide more organization, better build-up play? Yes, I do. I'll check to all of those points. But is Real Madrid necessarily going to be a dominant force under Zizou? Or is it still going to be a more pragmatic defensive side under Zizou? I think it's the latter. With Zizou, you know what you're getting. Think about this. Under Zidane, we also could not press the ball. I think the biggest thing this team needs more than anything is the ability to press the ball. Because if we start pressing the ball in a very succinct way, actually winning the ball high up the pitch, I think things drastically change for this Real Madrid team. Even the game against Arsenal, we tried to start off the game very aggressively, winning the ball high up the pitch. But we just did not have the ability to do that because our players are not trained on how to do that day in and day out. There is no better manager in the world who can get these guys pressing, organized, winning the ball high up the pitch, creating high XG chances, taking the careers of Arda Güler and Endrick to the next level than that guy. I'm telling you. This is a guy that went toe-to-toe with Pep Guardiola with a much lower budget. So just imagine giving him all the players that he dreamt of getting at Liverpool. Because he tried to get Valverde. He tried to get Tchouaméni. He tried his best to get Camavinga. He tried to get Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo. Now they might all be playing for him. And he can reunite with Trent Alexander-Arnold, a player that he loves and he believes in. And that's why I think it's a no-brainer to appoint Jurgen Klopp. It really makes all the sense in the world to bring a guy like that in with his personality to the Bernabeu. Because I think he's the guy who can really bring us back to the glory days and help us win Champions League back to back. I don't know, maybe you guys might not agree with me. Let me know in the comment section who you guys would love to see as the manager for Real Madrid next season. I'm going to be covering a lot more topics, talking about transfers, talking about more of the tactical side of things, and also let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see, any things you guys want me to cover. There's a Miguel Gutierrez, there's Zubamendi, there's a number of players we're also linked with, so let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.